Hello, all. I am just straightening up my camera because I want you guys to be able to see me large. Wait, yeah, that's it. Large and in charge. I am here with my dear friend Natasha Khan from Talks with Tash podcast.
Hi.
And I love this woman that I'm sharing the screen with. I always say we go way back. I have been dear friends with Natasha since high school, okay? Or before high school. And let me tell you, she knows where all my bodies are buried.
No, don't make any big
Right?
comments.
Gosh, you don't want to talk about any of that.
Yeah. None of that.
But with that being said, there's nobody I would want to have this conversation with more than Natasha, because we, started together with our menses and having cycles and having conversations about what it was to be getting our periods. And now we are of a little bit more of a seasoned age. We're moving into this new phase of our lives, which is being menopausal. And one of the things I realized, Natasha, is that we don't talk about this phase about being menopausal. You kind of hit it and then you just notice some things. And so I think this is a conversation that really needs to be had. And I was, as I'm moving through the experience of it right now, I'm perimenopausal. I'm not actually menopausal yet, but I want us to break down what this is, what it means to be menopausal, how it affects our lives and as women, and even just the positioning that when you get into this stage of your life, what it brings to your world. But before we go there, Natasha, introduce yourself. Give the crew, everybody out there, hello if you have joined us. Can't wait to hear about you. And please leave comments in the chat. We want to hear all about you.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. Thank you, Carrie.
Yes.
I appreciate you having me on your show. As you had mentioned, yes, we've been friends since high school. And you've become a really close friend over the time period after we were connected.
Right.
And that's how we did. I'm Natasha Khan. I started my podcast, Talks with Tash, in December of 2020. And I did a few recordings, told a few people. Carrie was one of them. It was really hush hush. And then February came around, decided, you know what? I think I'm going to hold back a little and relaunch. And I wasn't sure when I was going to do the relaunching. But speaking with you, you were around doing the same thing as well. And I thought, okay, well, let's do it in April. So in April is when I relaunched my Talks with Tash. And it's just been doing magnificent. So I'm quite happy with it. I'm just going with the flow with it right now. I also have my business that's branched off from that, and my business is called Unique Connections. And Connections is spelled KHANNECTIONS. So it's my last name, Khan, and then Connections.
I love how you put that together and how it flows. What is it that Unique Connections does? Let's talk about that, because I think it's tied into this journey as well.
Yeah, it is actually. It's counseling and coaching and basically consulting. So, everybody out there is going through something. They have something some sort of trauma, something that's happened in their past life and they don't know how to get past it. Or you're just going through something really difficult at this time in your life and you have no one to speak to. And it's like, okay, you know what? Let me just reach out to Natasha. So it's more or less, I'm there for the support, consulting. I do daycares. I work with parents. I work with families. individuals, and just connecting people is more or less what it is.
Right?
Yeah.
I love the work that you do. I'm grateful that you are sharing, and there's so much wisdom that you have. And I think in particular around this story, this idea of menopause, that I am so grateful that you are here to share it with us and with me. And so let's dive right in, Natasha. Let's talk about menopause. Let's just hit it from the beginning, girl. What
is it, huh?
Right, what is your journey in? What has that been?
Well, with my journey, it's a little bit different. I'm 46 years old now. I had gone through breast cancer in 2017, and I had done the treatment of radiation and chemo. With that happening, the chemo put my body into premenopause. So I happened to go through the menopause phase a lot earlier than the rest of you did. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how that came on. But it's basically the same. It's just the hot flashes. The hot flashes is what is the worst.
And why nobody tell us about that? Why?
I don't know. And you know what the thing is? I think they did, because I vaguely remember my mom always complaining about having these hot flashes. But I mean, when we were young, you don't think about those things. You're not paying attention to it. But going through it, and I'm kind of glad I went through it at an early age, only because when you get a little bit older, you're a little bit more on edge, is what I want to say. So, it just, I'm glad it happened with me that way. But the mood swings are another thing. Just even the cold flashes, because there's 1 minute I would be so hot, and the heat, it's almost like it rises up in your body. It's not a heat that's coming in. It's like it just wants to explode.
Oh.
And sometimes I feel like I'm walking around with flames off from my head because I'm so hot. So what I did is I went to the dollar store and I purchased a bunch of these cute little fans, and I carry them with me now. And they are magnificent. So instead of me always doing this, I have my fan.
Well, I have to laugh about this because I'm entering into this phase of hot flashes. And what I actually have found is that for me, I actually dress in layers. What I found works is, it's so funny. In the wintertime or in the springtime, I would have on like a jacket, and then I would be wearing, a coat. Then I'd have on a shirt, and then I'd just strip everything off, right? Strip everything off. I'm worried about it now being so hot because I'm only wearing one layer. So, I'm liberal, but I don't know what that shock is going to be to some people, right? And I think I love what you're saying, because it is a truth. That's a great little tip, guys. By the way, carrying those little mini fans, thank you for that. I think that may be a solution for this weather. And I just wanted to shout out that Colleen is on the stream. And Colleen, Colleen said my face would get so red.
Yes.
And I agree. So does mine. I didn't know you could. I didn't know I could underneath the darkness of this melanin.
But we do. We definitely do.
And I want to just clear up quickly what the difference is between menopause and being perimenopausal. Do you know, Natasha? Do you have any idea of what the differences are between the two? Perimenopause and menopause.
No, what is the difference?
So let's explain it. So perimenopause is when it's a process that can last up to 2 to 10 years. Your body can be processing and moving into the hormonal shifts that really cause the end of your cycle. And that is menopause.
Okay.
Menopause is officially menopause when you have had a full year, so 12 months of no cycles. Then you are officially in menopause.
Oh, well,
So
shoot, then I am.
you've joined the club.
Yeah.
And then there are those of us like myself who for the last, I've noticed it probably in the last year and a half, my cycles have started to change. They show
Mm.
up when they want to. That's always a thing. It's always like, I almost feel like my cat that brings in the dead mouse every so often. It's like it just hits you with a little surprise. I'll go 3 months and there's nothing, and then all of a sudden my period will show up like, hey,
So
welcome.
you got to make sure you're always covered.
You got
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
right? And but I still have all of the symptoms. So like you, the mood swings have been real. Like
Okay.
you, the
Oh, yeah.
hot flashes are real. I'm noticing something that I didn't realize can be a part of menopause is sleep disruption. I'm
Oh,
not
really? Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
sleep disruption is a part of it. And interestingly, the hot flashes also are about, because I had to do some research, girl, because I was like, what is happening to me? Sleep disruption. Sleep disruption is a big part, but also your temperature gauge, because of the hormonal shifts that are happening, your body's starting to produce less estrogen. It
Okay.
affects the way your body regulates temperature. So, when you suddenly go through that cold flash and then you're hot, it actually is a direct symptom of our menopausal state as well.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So also there are higher levels where you have to be concerned with things like I didn't realize this, urinary tract infections.
Oh, yes.
I had no idea
Yeah.
that you are affected when your hormonal levels shifting as well.
Yeah. And
Um,
then even like the yeast infections, ugh. And even the bacteria one.
yep.
I found I had gotten a lot of that too.
Well, it affects the way that our bodies regulate even our mucous membranes, right? And
Okay.
our vaginal areas are so beautifully designed to
Mm,
keep out things that we don't want in there. And what happens is, one of the things when you produce less estrogen, that too is something that affects us. The less estrogen creates more vaginal dryness. The mucous membranes aren't necessarily functioning to the highest level before, but there are a lot of ways that we can treat that as well. So
okay.
just, if you're experiencing any of these kinds of symptoms, also, when you're perimenopausal, I think it's prone and good to mention that a lot of what happens when you're perimenopausal as well is your periods will act differently. So they'll shorten
Mm,
or they'll get longer, or just they act differently in that
yeah.
space and
Okay.
time. Uh,
Wow.
I love what Colleen said. Colleen said, I have to be honest, my monthly was evil and menopause was a breeze.
Yeah.
Uh,
And you would think it would be the opposite, right? But yeah, and you know what? I think it is, we have to embrace it because as much as we don't like it, it's another stage for us with our womanhood, you know? Um, and at first I was complaining about it and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so young and I shouldn't be having it right now. But it's like, I don't get my period anymore. Yay!
I love where this conversation is going because I wanted to talk about this, right?
Yes, yes.
One, I think there are some truths and negatives around that we don't talk enough about it. So when you hit this phase of our lives, it doesn't feel like you just don't know what to do or how to
Right.
process it. And
No,
for
of
me,
course.
right? And for me, I think that we live in a culture that tells us that youth and being fertile and being the maiden, that child mothering realm is the end all and be all of womanhood. And so I think when we get to this stage of menopause, it's almost like we drop off. Do you know what I mean by that? Like the idea of a woman being desirable or sexual doesn't seem to exist. You know, we're a culture that chases youth.
No. I think it's a lot different for us now.
Well, this is what I'm mentioning it because I think that you're right.
It's a lot different. Yeah.
I
don't feel that way at all.
Right. And I want to point that out. What do you feel like, Natasha? Because I'm pretty sure it's similar to what I think.
I feel a lot more, I guess, sexier. And just more, I feel more powerful, to be honest. It's almost like I've ended another chapter of my womanhood, and now I'm going into I don't want to say elderly, but it's another stage of womanhood. And to me, it's like you're getting up there and you're getting more wiser. You're getting more skills, you know, and it just feels like everything that you've learned back then, you're using it now. And it's everything from just being a sexual person, just being, you know, just, it's almost like you're more of a sexiness comes out. For me anyways, that's how I feel.
And why I love, oh, you hit the nail on the head, right? I think you're quite right. There's a portrayal in the media, in the way society has structured more seasoned. I like the word seasoned.
That's it. Okay.
Right? We are a more seasoned woman.
Yes.
Right? But what I think is so amazing about being more seasoned is that we do have this unique space now where you know your body. I know that I wouldn't trade where I sit in that wisdom, in that my life experience to what I was at 30 even 20, when you know you're supposed to be your most sexually virile. Yes. I know my body and my body knows me. And quite frankly, I'm acquainted with a few other bodies. Yes. Well, I'm not that. You know what I mean? There is a skill set, a talent that comes along with where I sit now.
Right.
And when I'm in that, I now can use that skill set and be okay. And I don't have to worry about any babies. And I just wanted, right? No more babies to worry about.
Lord, yeah. We're free.
Right? So how does that...
And that's why we're doing what we're doing now, because we're free and we're able to just let it all out and just, you know, accept every part of our body now, whether we have a bunch of rolls, whether we have, you know, that flabby underpiece, but we're still sexy, you know?
And I want to talk about that. Now that you are free, how have you found that it's affected your sex life? And I just want to, before you answer, I want to shout out to Nika, Sister T. Thank you for joining us. Put into the chat any questions you may have, anything you guys want to know about menopause. And we're just going to have a candid talk about what you can expect, what it feels like, what comes up for you as we move through. And we're going to talk about something really juicy right now, Natasha. How has moving into menopause affected your sex life?
In the beginning, it was kind of rough. Like I said, with the whole, there's the dryness, and then even sometimes you don't want to be touched, or you just don't want to be in any shape or way or form with anybody. But now it's a whole different story.
When did you find that shifted for you? When did you find that shifted? How long the process for you was that?
For me, I would honestly say it took maybe about a year or two, right? Because it was me learning myself and learning myself from inside out as opposed to the outside in. And with having all that, and sometimes there wasn't even any sex, to be honest, because it was almost like I wasn't in the mood for it. I didn't care for it, and I was okay with it. But then there's the times that you just wanted it, or, and once again, it has to do with the whole hormones and the whole mood swings and all of that. So it plays a huge part on your body, and you just got to accept it. And I feel that's what helped me, is accepting you're going to go through this. This is what's happening to your body. This is what's going to happen to your body. Go with the flow. You can't fight it. All right. So, and enjoy it. It's a good thing because, like I said, you're ending your period. You don't get it anymore. You don't have to worry about anything. And it's just a nice feeling to be free of that, and just to know that you've accepted every part of your body and you're understanding your body a lot better because of the wisdom now, right? Yeah.
I think you're so on with that. I know for me that I'm kind of moving through that phase. I feel like because I'm in the perimenopause stage, my body isn't making up its mind. Like I almost move through like the whole cycle of what it is to have a period and try the PMS stage and all of that. And, my body goes through the motions and then nothing happens. So it's like, I'm never sure where I'm sitting.
Right.
So I have been finding that I have to really take a self-awareness to be able to be sexual, to be able to be in with my partner. It's taking a little more effort. And I've been working a lot of practices for that. And Tanika just put in the comment, how do you deal with the dryness and what do you use? I'm used to, I won't read all of it because I know the kids may out there. And yes, I get it on both sides, right? I get it can be challenging on both ends. And I know for me, what I've been using is I actually just use coconut oil. Coconut oil for me, or you can get a lube oil, a lubricant of some sort, or either water soluble. My favorites are always silicone based. However, I prefer the silicone based lubes if I'm using that. But for the most part, when I want to just be natural, I use coconut oil. That's my go-to. And that normally just helps the process along, and can be, a little fruity, or you can add an essential oil to spice things up depending on where you're sitting in that. And also with any supplements on change of diet, I know I have. What do you use, Natasha, when you are talking about dealing with the dryness? What are your suggestions?
It was the lubes I would use. Yeah. And then the doctor had prescribed something, once again, because of the whole chemo, she had prescribed something for me that I had to be inserted. Like, I can't remember the name of it, and that helped. So, but after all of that is when more of the lubes I would use. But I'm good to go now.
See,
don't have a problem.
I was going to say, and it really does seem to be transitional, right?
Yeah.
Because I know that it depends at what time of the month that I use. And for me, I actually also have supplemented my process. When I was talking about, when I don't feel like I want to be sexual or be intimate with my partner, what I actually really dive into is my own self-pleasure program. And I use a jade egg. My jade egg actually really seems to be doing wonders for allowing for vaginal dryness. It helps regulate the vaginal walls to be able to produce their own natural secretions, as well as helping to strengthen your pelvic floor and all the other wonderful things that that yoni eggs do. So for me, that's also been a part of my process of clearing. Um,
Mm.
yeah, one of the things that we talk about is, being in this space and time, Natasha, as we are moving into this new phase of our existence. What has it done for your spirit when you
Oh,
think about this? What has it done
God.
for your spirit?
When they say that us women, we have power. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Our wombs are so powerful.
Mhm.
And I know that's with like our sacral chakra and stuff. And since I've been on that journey and focusing on my chakras, that's where I can say to myself, even like with the hot flashes, they've eased up with it. So it's almost like when you discover it and you accept it and you're one with it, that's where it's easier for you and you respect it, because when you have your period, it's all with the moon cycle,
Mhm.
right? And I've discovered that now. So it's like, okay, but now I don't get my period. So how do I do it? So now it's more or less I do like the cleansing of the chakra cleansing, the yoga and stuff. I find that helps me. And it's like bringing in Mother Earth, Mother Nature through the womb up and out. So for me, spiritually, it's been a magnificent journey.
I really relate to that, and that resonates so deeply with me, because from what I am finding is that as my body is going through the shift, I have to find ways to ground myself,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? I am looking very deeply and having to go within myself to
Yes.
figure out who I am outside of being this or being mother, because that's what, when we define ourselves through this experience of motherhood or
Mhm.
of womanhood, it kind of focuses on most of our time. Our purpose is supposedly about that. And when you
Right.
shift into this phase of it, when you are, not necessarily as fertile and moving towards knowing that that end is of your life is coming, um, it really shifts you to have to go deeper. It
Yes.
makes you start to think about, who am I
Hmm.
if I am not a mother? If I am, who am I as I am becoming this? I don't love the word elder, even though that is a realm of majesty and respect to be given. But as
Right.
I move into this more, matriarchal space.
Well, then I would say then we've moved into our goddess space.
Ah, how
Because
do I
honestly, that's when I do the chakra cleansing. And
answer?
like I said, when you're squatting and you're just bringing that energy up and you do that goddess pose,
Mhm.
that's what I would say it is. We've become goddesses now,
Ah,
So we've hit the hierarchy. We've reached our top. So now we are the most powerful people in the world.
I agree. I agree.
So yeah.
Yes, yes. Tanika, it does not last forever. I'm just
No, love.
to it like most things, our bodies transition as we move through the spaces of this. And I know for me that that's been pivotal, is the acceptance of this idea of transition, of the change.
Yeah. And I feel that it's like anything else. Once you accept it and go with the flow, it's so much easier.
Mhm.
Instead of us complaining, oh, it's just menopause. Oh, it makes it harder for us to deal with it. So I feel that the accepting it empowers you. And it's like, okay, this is our next phase. Let's
How
go
did
with
you how
it.
did you move through to acceptance? How did you move through to that space? What were your steps? Do you know?
No, I don't remember. I think it was just more or less the fighting of it and getting upset. And then Okay, actually it was recognizing what was happening to me,
Mhm.
as opposed to my children telling me, oh, you're in a bad mood or you're always grumpy. It was for me to recognize, okay, you're not in a really good mood, or you're in the greatest mood and in 2 seconds you're crying again. You
Mhm.
have to know how you're going to react.
Mhm.
The hot flashes, when they happen, you need to know how you're going to deal with it, because it's only you going through it. Nobody else is. So it's just realizing, okay, this is why I'm in a bad mood. Let me go by myself.
Mhm.
I'm in a good mood. Okay, I can be around other people and all of that. But it's just the fact of taking the steps, taking your time with it, really and truly, and accepting it and being one with it.
I hear that. And I think that is such great advice. I know for me, where I'm sitting in the process is moving into the acceptance, but
Mm,
also I am allowing myself a minute to reminisce and to do some of that mourning. You know what I mean?
yes.
There is an element of a phase of my truth ending, but I
Mm,
recognize that as anything ends, other things open
things
up. And I believe
most
I
definitely.
right, and I believe that in Western society that we put a lot of emphasis on one season of our lives.
Mhm.
This idea of youth and vitality. Everything that we flash along the screen holds that front and center, and yet we know that our in other philosophies and understandings that we can celebrate all of the different seasons that we exist in. And so for me, one of the things that this time has brought me is the opportunity to reflect on the wholeness of who I am.
Yes.
All of these different phases I can liken to the seasons of my life, and for me, this is moving into like a fall. Like I'm
Yeah.
going to start to reap the rewards now
That
of,
you planted.
of all of right of all that experience, right?
Exactly.
All of that experience, all of
Mhm.
the lived life and mothering and all of that beauty, I can now take into this delicious time of my life because now I've got experience that
Mhm.
matches the wisdom that can match the sexy, right?
Exactly. And the power.
Oh, right. It is so real. I don't have to feel detached from my body, or
Mhm.
even whether or not I have to please somebody else in this. I'm noticing, and one of the things we haven't talked about is one of the symptoms as well, or a offshoot of menopause, is that you gain weight as your body, as your body as the estrogen levels drop as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
it also makes you prone to weight gain.
Yes.
So you have to be cognizant of that. And this is for the first time in my life. I have had to watch that a little bit. I'm
Really.
noticing that I'm putting on a couple of pounds that I weren't there before.
You carry.
Me, Carrie, I was like, what is going on here, though? Right? I was like, I got little hips. I got going on. And
But you know what? But listen, that's the whole thing.
right,
Accept it.
right. I'm not mad.
Because yeah, because the little flab here and there, it's just a little curve being added onto you. That's all.
I so hear you.
Yeah.
It's once again a new space for me, but I
Mm,
welcome that opportunity to
yes.
be in this space because
Yeah.
to me, this is my divine vessel. So I'm getting another opportunity to be in the experience of that vessel.
Yes.
And with that, I have a question now for you again.
Sure.
How have you found your lovers, your significant other? Um, how did that experience affect them? How has menopause affected your love life?
Just I would get the little comments of you being, you're a bitch. Okay. But it was what it was. But currently I'm not in no love life thing or any relationship with anybody. Um, and even the beginning stages I was, but as I went through it, I wasn't with anybody, and I'm glad. I'm glad I had that opportunity to be by myself and for me to experience it. My kids, they're always saying some foolishness. Oh, you're always in a bad mood. So I take them with a grain of salt.
Well,
So that's why it's like for me, I'm glad I had the opportunity to do it by myself. And I didn't have to hear any negative talks from anybody or those underhanded things that they like to say and the stereotypical stuff. And it's like, no, you don't get to tell me anything because I don't need you to tell me anything. I'm accepting it and I'm understanding what's going on. And that's the problem. A lot of people don't understand what's going on with their bodies, right? So it's just for you to learn about it and for you to just feel it. You have to feel it and enjoy it.
And this is why, thank you for that share, Natasha, because this is why I want to have this conversation. So many things make sense to me now. If you get a chance to watch this, I understand. I greatly understand now. I apologize for the rolling of the eyes when you might be going through some things. It clicks.
It makes sense.
Right? And so I just want to apologize for anything I might have done in that period of time. And why I bring that up, Natasha, is because I like you have teenage older daughters, and I know that this time around I'm talking to my kids about this phase of my womanhood. My daughters and I are laughing because my daughter will notice I'm wearing the layers and she'll be like, "Oh, mom, has it hit?" And I'll start taking them off, and she's like, "Really like that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is. Watch and learn." And also, well, and that's why I am, because also if I get kind of emotional or teary-eyed, I think it's so important that I can check in. You know what I mean? And say to them, you know what? I might be having a lot going on, but I'm also really becoming aware of my body. Like for me, like you mentioned with sex and my partner, how I'm working through that is to become really in tune with my body. And right now I can tell, just because I know myself, that my body is like in a PMS stage. Okay. So I don't know if I'm going to get surprised and something show up, but probably not. It seems to be working on like a 90-day cycle, but I can tell, there's the heaviness that shows up. I feel the sensitivity, even my body itself feels sensitive. So that's what it used to be like when I was coming up to a period. And because I know that, I can warn everybody.
Yes.
I'm a little sick right now. I pre-warn. I'm like, I woke up today and it's not, it's
not good. Yeah.
Yeah,
and it helps.
That
does help though, because it shows them as well that we're respecting them and just letting them know. Because I did that one day with my younger one. I came out of my room and she's coming down the stairs and I said, "I'm just letting you know, I am perfectly fine, but I'm just going to be really quiet today. There's just a lot of things on my mind. So just, you see me, but you don't see me."
I was going to say.
Yeah, and she's like, "And you're not mad?" I said, no, not mad. Because that, for me, when I do get mad, I go silent. Right. But that's the other thing, when I am focusing on something or I have something that's really on my mind, I just go silent. And giving them the warnings, it helps, or even if come from like something and I'm in a really bad mood, I text them, don't bother me.
Right?
No.
I think that is so important.
Yeah.
I really love the way that you are modeling that for your daughters, because I believe we have these silences around these experiences, and not just menopause. Like, this is even when you do have your cycles and we're moving
Yes.
through. Women move, like you mentioned, with the moon. And because we can feel all of these different feelings, being in communication and being able to celebrate or
Yeah.
acknowledge that you're in that space becomes so helpful.
Yeah.
And it lets your daughters know that it's not about them, that this is a natural part of being, and you're modeling for them the truth of being able to communicate these spaces as women. And that, to me, creates that soft space for all of us to just know we can be accepted and loved in a way that I really think womanhood needs to look at.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know about you, Natasha, but I think a lot of the time we live in a world that tells women they have to be everything, and we can't show that weakness, especially as a woman of color. You can't bow in any moment. You can't feel, you might be dying from pain cramps or menstrual cramps,
Oh,
or
and you're not allowed to feel that. No, no,
you
no.
got to
Oh,
still
no.
stay up.
Yeah.
And we suffer in that silence, right? So that is one of the reasons why, one, I wanted to have this talk, because I think there's a lot of women going through it, and
Oh,
you
and
know
suffering in silence? Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. And they probably don't have a clue as to what's happening to them. And they're just maybe even trying to fight it. But there's so much, it needs to be discussed, because with our mothers, or for my mother, it was never discussed. It was this, she would get in her bad mood and it's like, oh God,
right.
you don't want to be around her. Or she starts crying, you're like, okay, what's wrong with you? And then the flashes and like, and you're not understanding. All you know is, oh, she's going through menopause. So it's nice for the women to learn about it. And I think that's one thing well, for me, I was growing up as like, oh, I hate my period. No. I kind of missed out on accepting my period. And what I've learned now, I wish I knew back then, because I would have loved to have been able to be a part of the moon cycle. And it probably was, but I didn't know back then.
Well, I love you when you speak about this. I think it's so important to point that out, how we're now able to celebrate what it is. I love the celebrations that are being arranged for women, as young girls, as they come into their
Yes.
cycles. That is ancient understandings of how women used to gather and celebrate this important initiation
Yes.
into womanhood, becoming a mother, being able to be fruitful. And once again, it's that passing down of information as you stand in your womanhood. It's so wonderful to have your mothers and aunties and elders celebrating you and holding you in that space. And to be honest, I think as that rise is happening, I think it's amazing. But I also think there's something to be said to continuing that experience for women in our age, at our age and range, to be able to settle now that part of our job is done. And we are resting in the nucleus now. We can be nurtured and held by other women as we now say, hey, sex can really become about having fun now. That's where the shift is.
Yes. Yeah.
Sex can be about our fun. And so I got to ask you, Natasha, between me and you, because it's just me and you, and we're girlfriends.
Go ahead, let's hear.
Right? How are you celebrating this time? Have you developed like a self-pleasure practice? Are you indulging sexually? Like anything, you don't have to share it all, but what has that part of the journey look like for you?
I'll be honest. um, so I do like my full moon baths.
Yeah.
And I find with the full moon baths, just the whole pleasuring of yourself.
Yeah.
And even with the baths, it's just you alone, and it's just you. The water makes you feel so light, and then it's just almost like the water's like a cleansing, is how I feel when I'm doing that. So that would be the practice that I do with it now, because I don't get my period, so I don't get those, the PMSing as you would get now. So for me, everything's just shut off. So I just more or less, you know what, I go with the full moon because I didn't have the opportunity to do it when I did have my period. So I figured, you know what, that could be my little thing.
I love that. And what you're bringing forward and really mentioning is how you now can create whatever that is going to look like for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's something to be said for women in any phase of this game. It is to sit down and be able to claim your sexuality for yourself. I know for me, I'm a big advocate of women really showing up in their sexual power by offering themselves a self-pleasure program. And what I mean by that is you learning to make love to yourself.
Yeah.
Partners are wonderful, and I'm not saying exclude your partner. This
No.
can be a compliment and an enhancement that you add to the space.
That's right.
Right? But
Yeah.
I think it's so important to offer yourself this lavish, loving experience of knowing your body. And I think, right?
It's almost like you taking care of yourself by doing a face mask.
Yes.
We have to take care of ourselves down there as well. So if it's something as simple as that, or just even doing yoga is another thing too, because with doing the certain goddess pose and the squats, it just like the energy just is so strong and powerful coming from Mother Earth, from down below and entering in through the womb, and just filling you up.
It's healing. It's that healing energy. I know that that's the thing. We see sex, and we're normally told that sex only can be in one way, right? Sex is about an outcome of pleasure, and or sex is about pleasing our partner. But the reality of it is sex is a power charge to your universal energy. I always say there's a reason why at the end of any sex act or during, we're all going, oh God, Lord, Jesus, you are calling in. You call in those powers. You call it in. And that's because it's a way to connect to that higher source. And as we move through this stage of our lives, through menopause, I found that that's one of the greatest parts of it, is me having to connect in to myself. I am learning about the wholeness of my body and really offering it a grace to some degree. As I said, one day I'm feeling really in my space and great, and another moment I'm not. And I've always just been ready. I'm always like, hey, I'm good. And lately I'm like, yeah. And getting okay with that, right?
But it's good for you to take that quiet time.
You get it.
Really good. Yes. Yeah. Because we're always going, and there's no time for you to sit down and just say, okay, let me just breathe for a minute. Because that's all it takes, is just for you to sit there and breathe and just clear your mind so that you can have a better focus afterwards.
So the real. And that's what I've been finding. At first, I really was kind of like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
And then I realize once again that I can be in this season of fall, that I can reflect, and that is no less valuable as I'm transitioning in, because I know I see menopause, full-blown menopause is like a spring baby. I'm gonna be like hot and ready, and the rabbits will be flowing. I'm like, can we end this already? I want to be there. Right?
Yeah, you just want to get over to that side. Yeah.
But in the meantime, I'm learning so much. For me, I've actually really stepped into altering my pleasure practices quite a bit, so that it is more about soothing my body. It is more about just simply touch. That has been so comforting. That for me, as I may not want penetration, or I may not want a partner, what I still find I want is the comfort of myself. And so I really have taken that part of my journey into myself. That's how I'm transitioning, is using my own process, but not, it's more about loving me. It's more about comforting me. It's more about just gently touching my body and recognizing the phase that I'm in as I move into this newer stage, or this different stage of being.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's you that's going through it. So it would be you to know exactly how you want to be touched. And not taking anything away from the partners or anything. It's a different type of touch. It's a whole different type of energy and feeling. With the partners, it's just an added bonus for us. But when it comes to us doing it for ourselves, it just it's a whole different energy. And for me, sometimes I just give myself a hug.
Right? And that is loving ourselves and sexual. And so, Natasha, like we're coming up to the hour, and I really want to get your wisdom, because you've shown so much of it through this conversation.
But
sorry, girl, you know that you got it like that. What would you offer women? What would be your words of wisdom that you would offer to women as we move through this station of our lives? What would you say to them as they enter into it?
Enjoy it. Enjoy it, accept it, and go with it. Don't fight it. There's no point in fighting it. You can't change it. There's no cure for it. There's no healing of it. The healing part is you accepting it, to be honest. And enjoy it. And there is an end to it. There's an end, but then there's the beginning. And like you said, once that closes off, there's so much more that opens up. Yeah.
I love that. The only thing I'm going to add to it too is that for me, I am just reveling in the excitement of knowing that there is going to be that end result, and recognizing that we transition our sexy.
Yes.
Sexiness can be so many different, can take so many different faces and have so many different levels to it. And the one thing that I am definitely sure of is that it doesn't end here.
No.
That I am going to deepen into a whole other phase of my sexiness, and I find that exciting.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
And once you do that, you'll love it. You will enjoy it. I'm looking forward to the rest of the time for me.
Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's an end, ladies. It does not at all.
It's a beginning, to be honest.
Sex is like fine wine. It just gets better with age.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And we are going to leave it on that note. And thank you guys, everybody who joined in.
Thank you.
Please, Natasha, share where they can find you if they want to follow you. Where can they find you?
All right. So you can reach me on my IG at Unique Connections. So it's UNIQUE Connections, KHANNECTIONS. And you can listen to me on Talks with Tash podcasts where we heal. No, sorry. Say I'm seeing it wrong. Sorry. It's where we feel, heal, and release. And that can be listened on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts.
Yes, yes, yes. I will make sure all of that information is put into this chat. And I thank you so much, girlfriend.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate for having this discussion. And to all the ladies out there, enjoy it. Really.
Look how fabulous you look, like the queen
Oh,
on this stage.
thank you.
That
It's
was
the
God,
goddess in me now.
right? The goddess has arrived,
It has, yes. Yes.
right? It will for everybody too. So thank
Yes.
you all. I
Yes.
appreciate you guys coming on. We will connect soon. Please put any more comments. I will be looking in. We can respond. I want to know what you guys thought of this. And what else do you guys want to hear about? Do we need to have more conversations around menopause or anything else that comes up? Let me know. You can holler at me at my DMs. Y'all know where to find me. We will connect soon. Till next time.